This 17 News at Noon podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Coming up on 17 News at Noon, terrifying moments at the theater. Employees are assaulted and a gun is pulled out during an argument at Studio Movie Grill. What the argument was over, coming up. Overcome by coronavirus. Our local healthcare system is dealing with a staffing issue as nurses, like the rest of the community, test positive for COVID-19. Why some are still going to work despite being sick. And as we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, folks around Kern County are stepping up, performing service, and recognizing those who make a difference in our community. Those stories and more on this Monday, January 17th, 2022. Well, it is good to have you with us for 17 News at Noon. I'm Chris Burton. We begin today with Kern's sober reality. Police say one person is dead after a suspected DUI crash in East Bakersfield. Officers were called to the area of Morning Drive and College Avenue just after 9 p.m. last night. Police say a driver was traveling south on Morning Drive when they lost control, swerving off the road and flipping over multiple times. When first responders arrived, they say they found the man pinned under the car and seriously hurt. That man ended up dying. BPD says 3 other women were in the car and rushed to the hospital with what appears to be non-life-threatening injuries. Another man was treated at the scene with what officers are calling superficial injuries. That man was reportedly not hurt in the crash. Police say speeding and alcohol do appear to have factored into this wreck. And new today, frightening moments for people enjoying a movie at a local theater last night after reports of a fight and someone pulling out a gun. This all happened just before 9:30 at Studio Movie Grill on Rosedale Highway in Callaway Drive. Police say 2 people, identified as Eduardo and Ramona Reyes, assaulted several employees at the theater during an argument over their bill. Officers say Eduardo pulled out a gun and hit an employee with the weapon. BPD says the 2 drove off, later being caught by police near Truxton Avenue and Bahamas Drive. Officials say Eduardo was arrested for assault with a deadly weapon and other charges. Meantime, Ramona was arrested for driving under the influence, as well as being involved in that assault. And police are investigating today after a shooting in East Bakersfield. Officers were called to Monterey Street near Tulare Street just after 1 p.m. yesterday afternoon. When they arrived, they found a man suffering from gunshot wounds. No information is yet available about a suspect, the severity of that victim's wounds, or what led up to the shooting. The investigation is ongoing, and if you know anything about the shooting, you're encouraged to call Bakersfield Police. That number to call, 327-7111.
Hello, this is Tim Callahan with Clinica Sierra Vista, and we're excited to unveil the Community Health Center of the Future, our comprehensive care center. It's located right across the street from Memorial Hospital. We have every service under one roof, from family medicine, OBGYN care, dental services for adults and children, behavioral health, and much more. So find your way to better care at Clinica Sierra Vista this year at our comprehensive care center. Visit our website, clinicasierravista.org, for the latest on this project. We'll see you soon.
Bakersfield came together this morning to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and those in our community who embody his legacy. This event celebrated those who have worked to improve the lives of the Black community in Kern County. One local pastor told 17 News about his experience marching with Dr. King in Bakersfield.
He was just saying, march on, don't get angry, we're peaceful, we're nonviolent, we got God on our side.
Among those honored was our very own Michael Trihey, news director here at 17 News and a journalist in Bakersfield since 1978. As a reporter for the Bakersfield Californian, Trihey wrote a series of special reports on wrongly convicted criminal defendants and on the conditions facing young African-American men in South Bakersfield. Meantime, in Lamont this morning, hundreds of community members came together to honor MLK's legacy with a day of service. The event was organized by the Lamont Chamber of Commerce. Throughout the morning, volunteers picked up trash and painted over graffiti. Volunteer Donald Mills Jr. noted the value these events have during this pandemic.
The community has been suffering, of course, with COVID. Our students have been suffering with COVID. It's great to get these kids back out in the community, to do some community service, to build that community relationship, and to teach them those leadership skills that they're going to need in their future.
Today's event wrapped up with a volunteer luncheon after the day of service. Today, schools and businesses continue to deal with the surge in coronavirus cases as thousands in Kern County are currently isolating at home, sick with the virus. Since the beginning of the year, at least 13,000 people have been infected with the virus in Kern County. That number is most likely significantly higher due to a delay in results being processed. Meantime, our hospitals are busy treating people with more severe symptoms. 244 people are in the hospital with the virus, and 42 more are fighting for their lives in the ICU. Well, if you're looking for some good news, there is some. Nearly half of all people in Kern County are fully vaccinated. A milestone indeed, although far below the state and national average. And Kern Public Health will be hosting free COVID-19 vaccination and testing today from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at their facility on Mount Vernon Avenue in East Bakersfield. Rapid antigen and PCR testing will also be available, and you can just show up. No appointments are necessary. Well, it's not just COVID-positive patients creating a dire situation for our healthcare system. Swaths of hospital workers are getting sick too, and that situation led California officials to recommend asymptomatic COVID-positive healthcare employees continue working, guidance that local hospitals are wrestling with. Across Kern County, a picture healthcare officials had hoped we'd move past. Hospitals overfilled.
We're certainly very busy. The hospital has been impacted, as all of our local hospitals have. We're at capacity.
But in the midst of a surge fueled by the Omicron variant, it's not just COVID-positive patients taxing the healthcare system. Hospital workers are also falling sick in significant numbers.
We've had over 100 employees who have been out this week on any given day.
With fewer workers handling more shifts, Adventist Health's Ghassan Jamaluddin urges caution and attention to detail.
Exhausting our critical care capacity is dangerous. You know, I would say right now, because of the staffing strained and tired, yes, we have to be more vigilant.
To replace staff out sick, hospitals are using familiar methods, traveling nurses and state strike teams. But the situation is so dire, the California Department of Health has turned to more drastic measures, issuing a guideline last week that COVID-positive but asymptomatic healthcare workers may return to work immediately. It's guidance that hospitals in Kern are wrestling with.
Would I allow them to work? And in a crisis situation, the answer is yes, but you take precautions.
As a state healthcare organization, Kern Medical is obligated to follow guidelines from the state. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Glenn Goldis admits the plan still has question marks, but says Kern Medical would stick to it if need be.
Well, I think the evidence is a little thin in terms of guaranteeing anyone's safety. But in general terms, if you're able to make sure that you're following the guideline while taking the proper precautions, it should be okay.
The state's guidance currently remains in effect until February 1st. Well, the current Omicron surge is affecting life across the country. Today begins a week of deep dives on the fallout we're seeing here at home. Tomorrow on Sunrise, I'll take a look at the weight the virus is placing on Kern County schools and how you can keep your kids safe. If your puppy needs to get its wiggles out, good news. An indoor climate-controlled dog training gym is now open in Northwest Bakersfield. The Zoom Room held its grand opening this weekend for its newest location on Coffee Road near Downing Avenue, featuring activities for you and your furry friend that include a fun photo booth, a doggy donut decorating station, and a bobbing for hot dogs challenge. Man, if I had a dog, I would be here all the time. This looks so fun.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.